They gave me a placebo.
Does it work?
Nicolette TV is ready for you.
When I was going through the things, even when I was young, I just had this feeling that I wanted to survive. I wanted to live.
We're coming Nicolette
Unconscionable way,
TV.
unconscious, what's the word? Unconscionable, unconscionable,
Way. Yes,
a
yes, I
way,
hear you.
a way that's very, very wrong anyway. And
Yeah, and that's why healing is so important, and that was the key for me.
Nicolette TV. Coming round your way.
so this is the first episode of Nicolette TV, and I'm very excited. And I've got a wonderful guest here who's like just someone that I met recently, but how she has, I was just really struck by how much heart and intelligence she has, and how interesting she is. And she's experienced a lot in life, and has come through it with grace. I'm just excited to have her here. So it's her name's Brenda. Just introduce herself.
Um, I'm a mother of four grown children. I've got seven great grandchildren and
Get
no,
out.
seven grandchildren and one great grandchild, sorry, with
Really?
another on the way.
Sorry.
Um,
That's crazy.
so yeah, I've been blessed in that regard. Um, I was married. I got married quite young, and but unfortunately, we separated after 15 years. Um, and I think one of the reasons that led to the separation was to do with my early childhood experiences. It seems to be like people are talking a lot about their childhood, but our childhood does have a profound effect on our futures. Um, it can sort of damage it. But I'm really, without going too deeply into it, I've experienced quite a lot of different things, and maybe this isn't the time to talk about it, but one thing is, when I was going through the things, even when I was young, I just had this feeling that I wanted to survive. I wanted to live. It's really strange because as a child, when you're going through certain experiences and you don't understand them, you might want to die. But I wanted to live. Of course, I'm not saying that I wasn't saddened and it didn't have some of these experiences. It had a profound effect on my education, a very, very profound effect. I didn't learn to read and write till I was around 14. Um, but I do remember that I used to like hearing stories and attempting to write my own stories. And that's something that stayed with me. Um, because of some of the things that I've been through in life, um, it led me to becoming addicted to drugs at the age of 36. That's quite a late age. I didn't really smoke when I was young. I didn't smoke. It's not about really. I didn't smoke when I was young. I didn't come from a background where people were smoking. But I think when my marriage broke up, it affected me because I don't believe people get married with the mindset of wanting to get divorced. I don't think so.
Young then, you must have been about 20 if you said you were married for 15 years.
Yeah, I was around 21,
Yeah,
around those ages. So we was quite young anyway.
yeah.
And yeah, we had three children at that time, and then we had a fourth. So and when I look back, I was suffering with depression when I had my last child, but you know, um, I'm in my early 60s now. And at the time, they, I didn't know anything about that. So you just had to get on, isn't it? When we look back at our foreparents, they just got on. My parents came here from Jamaica, they just got on. So that's what I did. But when the marriage broke down, um, which was also connected to the trauma that I had gone through as a child, and then in early adulthood as well. I think it was just too much. And I met someone who I'm not going to blame. We're all responsible for the actions that we take. I could sit here and say, oh, it was because of this, it was because of that. And yes, these things did have a connection to that. But, I started smoking. And then the next thing I knew, I was taking hard drugs, nearly all drugs, barring heroin. And I was also taking prescribed medication because I couldn't sleep. So I was placed on sleeping tablets at a very young age. So I knew there's a combination of putting something in your mouth. So putting a tablet in my mouth, smoking a cigarette, holding a drink, they were natural to me. So even though I was 36 and I'd never done any of those things before, um, I took to it, like they say, with, like a duck to water. Unfortunately, I was still caring for my children. So you could still care for your children, but I wasn't there emotionally. So yes, they went to school. They had their school, I made sure they went to school. Sometimes they didn't go.
Oh,
Yeah, they were fed
yeah,
and all of these things, but I was missing emotionally, which is something that, I've had to learn to forgive myself for, and
of course.
thankfully they've forgiven me for. Some of the things I done is awful, with this body,
Yeah,
with this thing called a body. I'm surprised it's still here and around. As a woman, and even as a male, I suppose, if you get caught up in that situation, you know, your currency is your body,
yeah,
you know, um, and people say, are you not ashamed to share these things? No, because I want people to know that the depths that you can go to. And, I became a Christian, but I'll talk about that in a second. But I went very low while still caring for the children, while still working, while still going to university and getting an education. I was in this turmoil, but things came to a head where I felt I was going to die. And in fact, I overdosed twice. And I thought, I can't go on like this because I wanted to live, but I didn't want to live that life.
yeah,
And I went to the doctor, I remember very clearly. And because I didn't present as what these doctors considered a drug addict should present. So my body was that, it was very thin, but I was speaking like this. They didn't believe me. And I remember saying they said I had to go and see a psychiatrist, and I went and I said, she said, there's nothing we can do. And that's another thing to do with the government. There's not enough facilities for Black women, but that's another story.
yeah.
But I said to the woman, I'm going to die. If you let me go from this office, I'm going to die. Um, I had tried, and it's important to say that I had tried to get counseling. Counseling wasn't around in those days, but I did try to get counseling. I did try to get support. But you have to deal with the root cause of your problem. You can't deal with the surface. And I think I was dealing with the surface. I didn't even realize there was a root, to be honest. So I got voluntary signed into Springfield, a mental institution. Who would voluntarily sign themselves there? I did. I was desperate to get help.
What Springfield is that a well-known institution?
Yes,
Okay,
in South London.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
It's on the say, it's like a Morsley mental institution.
okay.
And I signed myself into that, and it was for 3 months. And I was a nervous wreck. I was scared of everything. I had a severe eating disorder. I didn't trust anyone. I couldn't sleep. And whilst on the ward, there was a man on the ward. And because my body was like that of a child and he was a pedophile, unfortunately, he, came to my bed, and I just started to scream, and they told him he had to leave. And I actually saw him in my area a couple of weeks later. Thankfully, he didn't recognize me.
He
And
was
I stayed.
wander free, even though he was doing the stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And I came home on a visit. Of course, nothing had changed really. And the person that was giving me the drugs lived in the same estate as me. So I saw him. In fact, he lived downstairs. So I had to pass his door, and it was a visit for me to visit home, to be on a home visit. And I used drugs, and I told them. They took my urine anyway, so they tested me, and they said I had to leave, and that was it. I said, right, I'm going to die. I'm going to be dead, But I had a faith in God, but I didn't know him. I had, you can know somebody but not really know them. So I had that belief, and I went home and I was like, I'm going to die. But the amazing thing happened. A relative contacted me and said, now the only people who knew about my drug addiction was like my sisters and stuff, but outside people didn't know. So I didn't tell this person. So I'm a Christian, so I believe God prompted him to call me, and he said, oh, there's a place you can go. And it's a Christian organization, and it's a rehabilitation center, and you can go there and they will help you to sort your issues out.
I was just wondering, maybe you can, because I want to come back to this a bit later, how you kind of got out of all this
Oh, yeah.
stuff, yeah. But I'm really interested in what, I mean, if you care to share, obviously, like, sort of the root trauma, basically, and the shame, because it's kind of interesting because I was talking, I just sent a newsletter, an email to people on my mailing list, and to people who had pre-ordered my album and stuff, and really it was about shame. It was about, because there were things I hadn't said, about certain things to them. What I'm trying to say is that what you were saying was really kind of resonated with me, because I was talking about trauma and how the shame, how that creates so much shame. And I sent those letters, the newsletter, and the letter, the emails and stuff, because I wanted to free myself from this
Yes.
shame, because I also had early trauma, and kind of had a lot of treatment for it. What treatment? I mean, what treatment? Not
I know what you mean.
yeah. But but then some of it resurfaced in the last couple of years, like a deeper
Mm,
layer of it and stuff.
yeah.
It was, and it had been quietly affecting my life. But I was really ashamed of that, and also of
Yeah.
what it had done to my life, and also what had happened and stuff. So I'm gradually kind of getting myself into kind of sharing more of that stuff, because I think it's a very powerful thing for other people as well, to know that you can, first of all, get past that, but also there's nothing to be ashamed of,
Yes.
if you've had difficult experiences, or if you've had even, yeah, it's nothing to be ashamed of being sensitive and having these experiences. So, but anyway, so yes, I wanted to, like, before you go on to the next part, I wanted to just ask if you care to share a little bit about, kind of what the trauma
Mm,
was, how that happened, and what
mm,
effect it had on you. So,
yeah. So I experienced sexual abuse at a young age, and I think, nowadays you read lots of stuff. There's so many things out there, people can educate themselves. But what people don't realize is how it affects you mentally, psychologically. When you think about it in a practical way, if if somebody's been hurt in some way, why should that person feel shame? But it's like a natural response. You feel, oh, if I had said this, if I had done this, if I hadn't gone there. And if you're a child, you go where you're sent, or if it happens in school, you're in school. If it happens
yeah.
at someone's house, your mum sent you there, that's where you are. You didn't go there for that to happen.
No, exactly. I don't
No,
understand. And so you kind of put that on yourself, but also the abuser usually tries to put their shame onto you.
yeah. I think you don't understand it. You have no concept as a child. You don't understand. You think, this is a normal behavior. I just remember feeling very afraid, very nervous. I think if I'm really honest, I was thinking, oh, my mom's going to tell me off. It's going to be seen as my fault. And so I think if you speak to nearly everyone in life who's been through some sort of abuse, it's like there's a trigger and you start to feel ashamed. So then what happened, I can speak for myself. I just started to dislike my body when I got into my early teens. I just did not like my body. I did not want anyone to look at my body. I didn't, I didn't realize that I didn't know what sex was. Now that sounds really strange because people say, well, how could you not know what sex was when something could happen to you? But I didn't. So when I got to 16, I remember very clearly, like lots of girls was talking about, oh, maybe they had done something with a boy or they liked that boy over there.
Mm.
I used to feel repulsive because, well, why would you like that boy? But this is what I'm saying. The dots weren't adding up.
Yeah.
If I had being counseled at a young age, I would have realized that those thoughts were coming from the trauma I had experienced.
Mm.
But I had no understanding. I just knew that if I smelt something, it would make me feel sick, or so that meant I was being triggered. But I didn't understand. I didn't like the smell of cigars. I had a fear of fingers and I used to call it old people's hands. It just used to make me feel very sick. And I felt ashamed all the time and forever apologizing when I haven't done anything wrong.
Mm.
So I took that with me into young adulthood.
Mm.
So I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Why am I sorry? I haven't done anything. Feeling very ashamed of my body, didn't like it, would find fault with it. When I look back, there was nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with me. I was all right. Then I started to feel I wasn't good enough. I'm not good enough for that particular person to like. I'm not good enough for this or that. Then I would start to feel guilty if something happened in a relationship. I would think it was my fault. It was all. So I brought all of this into the marriage, all of it.
If you were so afraid of, kind of having, basically you're so ashamed of your body and you were so afraid of kind of being touched and stuff, how did you end up getting married?
So I think what happened is during, no, not think, I know what happened is like I developed a different persona. So it was like a different person. So I saw all of my
So like a
friends.
mask or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everyone, not everyone, but obviously people were young and they were getting with people and I met my to be husband. So I met him and he was a very gentle person. And I thought, okay, he's all right, let me give this thing a go.
Yeah.
So
You feel you could
we
trust him then because he was a gentleman.
yeah,
Okay.
at that time, I didn't really know what trust was, but I thought he was all right. So
Mhm.
we got together. I think the fact is because he was gentle. He was gentle in his, I didn't like loud people, and he came across very gentle and he was very kind. So that made it easy, but it didn't mean that when we were physical that I didn't it was like I was holding myself together, and that's the trauma. So I was kind of holding myself. I wasn't natural.
Yeah.
And when I look back, what I put that poor man through, I wasn't, you know, just like I don't know what I consider normal people to be. That's what I used to call myself. I wasn't normal, but we plotted along. We ended up having more children, but then the cracks started to show because I was very jealous, and that jealousy came from again feeling ashamed, again feeling not good enough, not feeling that I could match up to all of the other females around me when we used to go out. So I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to go to parties or anything because I just felt ugly. And that's honest. I used to hate looking in the mirror. It would take me forever to get ready because I didn't want to look in the mirror because what I was seeing wasn't what everybody else was seeing. It was a distortion.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that's a good question. It was like I was wearing a mask. I felt like I was two people.
Yeah.
The Brenda from the childhood and this new version of Brenda, the Brenda that I could show the world. That's the Brenda. But then on the inside, that wasn't the Brenda on the inside was the real Brenda, the frightened Brenda,
Mm.
the afraid Brenda, the not good enough wife, the not good enough mother, the not good enough girlfriend or daughter.
Mm.
And so I carried this around for years, years and years, years for a very long time. Didn't do very well at school, didn't have,
And you didn't learn to read or write until you were
no, because how could I when I had all of this going on in my head? Unfortunately, my parents separated and,
they
it
weren't
wasn't.
aware of this abuse.
No, my parents separated when I was quite young, and yeah, it was after the separation, and even before they separated, they had a bit of a rocky marriage. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, the separation was not good. So we experienced quite a lot as children. So I was broken in many different levels, and my trust in adults was broken from a very young age.
Of course, yeah.
Um, And I suppose there was a part of me that desperately wanted to be loved. And that was another reason why I got with my husband, because I wanted to believe that I could be loved, that there was one person outside of my family unit that really loved me.
Mm.
And it was this man. And I'm saying all of this, he also brought his own trauma into the marriage.
Course, I mean, usually that's what happens. People who are traumatized kind of go gravitate towards other people who are traumatized, maybe in a slightly different way or a complementary way, and then there's
Yeah,
like a codependency thing that starts
yeah,
going on.
definitely.
Yeah, not always, but I think that's kind of a pattern. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it was after the marriage had broken down, I'd gone to university, which I found very difficult because I hadn't been in full-time education for a very long time. And I was a nurse.
After all that, and having
I
having
know.
learned to read and write at the age of 14 and all that. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, I just felt that I wanted to give back something to the community. I didn't really know what I wanted to do exactly, but I knew I was kind of community focused. Before I went to uni, I'd done an online psychology course. It was an online course.
Yeah.
Um, even looking back at that, so I think if I hadn't gone through what I'd gone through at a young age, I would have been an academic without a doubt. But I think my education was kind of derailed. But I went as an adult to university. I'd done a youth and community course, and I've got a really good friend, and she said she saw me blossom there when we speak. She said, Brenda, you were quite dowdy when you came.
Oh,
Wearing, I look back at pictures, it's like, oh my gosh, I was looking older than my years. I think I had this thing that I wanted to cover my body all the time. So, but during that 2 year course, I look back at my pictures and I just started to wear more tight fit things, shorter things, more things that expressed who I was. Maybe it was an experimentation, really, looking back.
mm.
But I start to come into myself, which did have also contributed to the marriage breaking up because now I wasn't just in the house, I was thinking in a new way. And then a little after that, my marriage broke down. And then as I said, I got into drugs.
But I'm just wondering how, what was the transition between, you going to, the breakup of your marriage and stuff that must have brought up a hell of a lot because so that to make you someone who had never taken drugs or even smoked before to actually just start taking drugs and then go into hard drugs and become a drug addict. So I'm curious about
Yeah.
well, not just curious, I mean, I feel it. I feel, when you were talking, I feel everything you've said, and I've also experienced similar things as well. I mean, in terms of early trauma and early abuse and stuff.
Mm.
So, there's a lot of stuff that I resonate with personally, but also I'm curious about um yeah, that just the transition, how that and what it was that kind of um made you and what were you feeling that made you need to kind of try and suppress it with drugs and stuff? How did that happen?
I think the pain of the separation, the pain of that I had actually had carried for so many years, it became I just couldn't cope. Um, Over time, I just wanted to be dead, if I'm honest. I just wanted to die. Because the pain, I remember I used to have dreams of maybe stepping in the road and maybe, something happening to me. But obviously, I also thought, well, what would happen to my children? But the pain it was too much. It overrode all of that because
That
it
pain
was
must have
just,
been there before, but it was suppressed, and so
yeah,
that must have been pain that you were carrying from the trauma.
yeah,
Then your husband was like a salve in a way because
yeah,
said he made you feel what that you wanted to that you could that there's someone you wanted to be loved because you didn't love yourself and you felt you're carrying the self-hatred, and so this person came was the person that kind of made you feel as if you were a bit more worthy than you thought you were.
yeah.
And so if that's taken away, then all that unworthiness and self-hatred and unbearable, all the unbearable shame and everything must have just come up. I imagine. I mean,
You're right. It just came up. And I didn't have the tools to deal with it. So yes, I was working and I was, when I was working and doing the things that, I was doing, but I was in pain. I always say to people, sometimes like when I meet people now who knew me at that time, they're just shocked um, because I had learned how to wear that mask. It was tightly in place. But in saying that, as I said to you, I did try to get help. So I did go to these places that I felt could help me, and lots of churches.
we went to churches as well beforehand.
Yeah, and I was
Okay.
crying out for help, but
Yeah.
they didn't understand me. As I said before, it was a different time.
Yeah.
So, and I think maybe I wasn't as clear, but I feel I was. I learned how to write poetry. So I used to I write a lot of poetry, a lot of prose, and I used to read them when I was given I was pouring my heart out into these because I just found the written word was I could express myself better by writing poems and poetry,
Mm.
but people still didn't get it. And I think one of the reasons why they didn't get it, it was because it was a lot I was saying. I'm in pain, help me. I've been through this, I've been through that. And I think at that time, people just didn't know how to deal with it. So I went to quite a lot of churches searching for this help that I didn't get. I went to like organizations that, as I said, to psychiatrists and doctors. So I did try lots of different things and nothing worked. And so I was ripe, as they said, to take the drugs because I just wanted to numb the pain.
You went to all these
Yes,
organizations and they couldn't help you.
no.
Yeah. Why couldn't they help you? I mean, especially if it's psychiatry and therapy.
With the lady,
Yeah.
I only saw one psychiatrist. As I said before, there was a bias, and some people say there's still a bias against Black women.
Okay.
So I also, because of my presentation, so she saw me with, and
Oh,
I'll say, what does a drug addict look like? And they'll point to somebody outside. No, a drug addict can be your doctor. It can be
yeah, it
a
could be
counselor.
fully functioning alcoholics and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because of that, because I didn't present like that,
Yeah.
she just didn't. So I did try. It wasn't that I didn't try. I remember I went to the GP and my GP gave me antidepressants. It was the wrong ones. I actually nearly died on those, so she had to give me another one. So I didn't take them. So I then just thought, you know what? This is an easier route for me. So when this person offered me weed, I just took it, and then that started to not,
Long enough.
I nothing was happening. Then I heard about a white sub. I knew about cocaine because I'd done a study on it. So I thought, let me try this, and it was easy for me to get. So I just started to take all of these things because it was easy for me. At first, it was easy for me to take
Yeah.
to get, but then after a while, as I said, when the funds run out, I had to use another commodity, and that was my body. But I was still reaching out for help, but I just didn't get it. It wasn't like nowadays where you just go on Google, you can perhaps find a counselor, you do your research or you go to your doctor.
Mm.
Well, also, which I think is very important for me to say as well, that with like the GP and everyone like that, I was very careful what I said because I didn't want my children to go through the care system because I've seen people who've gone through that. That's just my bias. And I didn't want my children and many women and men who has addiction problems, they don't tell the authority, social services, or because they're frightened that their children are going to be taken into care. They want the help,
Yeah.
but they might not say exactly
Yeah.
what's going on. So in answer to your question, it was because of the pain why it was easy for me to go down that road.
Yeah, I totally get it. I totally get that level of pain. Yeah, I mean, because when you were talking, I can just feel everything in my body, the whole the pain, that just the emotions. It's just so present, in this in the sense of I can feel what you went through. I mean, some of it resonates as well because I experienced not exactly the same things, but
Yeah,
the same feelings, the same shame, the same guilt. I mean, the feeling of being like a bad person, that I'd done something, I must have done something wrong, I must be a bad person, otherwise these things wouldn't happen to me. And
yeah,
these are just ways of that a child copes, basically, a young person that has experiences this. This is the way they cope. They have to think about it in a way that even though it's warped and not logical, but in a way that and makes them that well, speaking for myself, I had to think about it in a way that made me feel more powerful, as
yeah,
much as I
yeah,
could.
yeah, yeah,
Because the abuse was ongoing, it went on for
yeah,
a very long time. And so the only way I could make sense of it and survive was to make it about my fault, that I was
yeah,
bad, that and that there was something wrong with me and stuff. And so those core feelings rippled out through my whole life and stuff.
yeah,
And eventually, when I was an adult, I started doing therapy and stuff. But like I said, it goes in layers and stuff. So,
yeah,
and also there were different aspects of it that I had to deal with as
yeah,
well. So actually, I didn't deal with the shame for a very long time. I
yeah,
didn't realize that sometimes you're just carrying stuff that's related to that. You
yeah,
don't realize I didn't deal with the shame, and I was carrying it right through my career and everything. And
yeah,
because it didn't ostensibly, kind of have an effect. If it was having an effect, but I didn't realize until recently. And then I was just suddenly like, wait a minute. And it's
yeah,
having an effect on my whole life, this shame that I've been carrying. It's not even mine, all this stuff is
yeah,
not even ours.
yeah,
That we just there's just it was and layers of self-hatred and blame and guilt and because of that, it's so easy for other people to project their stuff on
Yes.
and stuff because
Yeah.
you just take
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So I do get it. It does resonate. And also, I mean, I'm assuming you're like me, like very sensitive as well,
Yeah. And
and
I think
have this
what you said something there that really, because I'm going to talk about my work after, but I carried that into work, all of this, people projecting and me taking it on. And, I just thank God that, thankfully through therapy, but more importantly, God, I don't, I learned that that's not mine, that's yours,
Mm.
but it's taken me, as I said, I'm in my 60s and now, sorry,
You're 61.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Oh,
same.
60. Yeah, I'm 61. I'm going to be 62 this year.
Okay, I'm 61, so we're about the same age then.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
it's about you carry it into other areas of your life, and then you look back and you think, kind of, I had to go through that process of grieving
yeah,
of what I lost,
yeah,
the innocence that I lost, and you know, everything like that, and then bringing it into work and all of these things into it affects every aspect of your life. It's not just, and I liked what you said about layers because it is layers.
yeah,
So you have to go down, you think, right, I've conquered this, but there's another layer, then there's another layer,
yeah.
then there's another layer. So
And the shame comes as well because you think, well, I ought to be over this. I mean, that's what let
yes,
me speak. I'll speak for myself,
yes,
because when the recent layers came up, I was like, but I need to. Why haven't? Because I've done so much work on this, and I've
yeah,
so much awareness to it and spiritual awareness to it as well.
yeah,
And I don't have a religion, but I do have a strong spiritual core
yeah,
to me and stuff, which I use, and I take things from different spiritual practices and kind of integrate them into my own specific
yeah,
spirituality, which I love because I just just so much love there. But yeah, but there's another layer of shame where it's or another aspect of the shame where it's like, why am I not over this? Why is this
yes,
rearing its head,
yeah,
rearing its head again? And I'm like, I'm like, I'm 60. Well, the last time it was like I was 58, and I'm coming up to the end of that cycle. But
yeah,
and it could be, and I might have another cycle in a year or 5 years, or when I'm 80,
yeah,
or if I 90 or whatever. So I don't know, because I was speaking to a lady the other day, an elderly lady who's 87, and she had the same experiences, like early abuse and stuff, are very bad.
mm,
And she still was like, and affected her whole life to a destructive point. And when I was talking to her, I was just, and she was still, feeling it, it's like,
yeah,
oh my God, I have to heal, as much as I can, which was always my priority, to heal and kind of like integrate it. What I realized,
yeah,
it's not just about healing, it's about integrating. It's not trying
yeah,
to reject it. It's about integrating it in a way that's safe and contained and wholesome for you.
yes,
So that's I think that's a very important thing as well, which I think sometimes healers and therapists and stuff forget, where integration is really important, because integration is like, the healing, your shadow, all the shadow
yeah,
stuff that's in you and stuff, and everybody. Well, I mean, I haven't met anyone that hasn't got it, but I'm sure maybe there's a few people that don't have that. But the shadow obviously comes from trauma and
yeah,
other things, that have impacted you in a significant and uncomfortable way, if you want to put it like
yeah,
that. Yeah. So the shadow, I think, needs to be integrated in the sense of, I feel as if, the because we live in a world where things are kind of like supposed to be good and bad. So the shadow is obviously usually labeled as bad, but it isn't. It's just part of life. And so if we integrate it, it can be, instead of being destructive, it can become something useful. What I mean is that, for example, like this, like experiencing abuse at a sexual abuse at very early age, which we've both experienced, and everything around it as well. It's the neglect around it. It's the secrecy around it. It's the everything that comes from that. There's a whole
mm,
bodies around it.
yeah,
So what I'm trying to say is that integration means that you can be like, okay, so all the things that brought, for me, it brought, for example, like this rage, which I wasn't able to express because it was too dangerous to express it. I mean,
Yeah,
to express
yeah,
any kind of rage, but the rage built up and over the time and stuff, and I never expressed it, and then it started to come through. But this rage is like, I guess, holy rage in the sense of
mm,
if you use it unwisely, then it becomes something that you just spit out at other people, and you affect other people, you hurt other people with it. But if not, if you claim that part of you, the rage and stuff, and you can, it's you start to appreciate and validate, the anger, not your anger in general, and
yeah,
that's part of your power, so that then
yeah,
helps you to, anger is part of having like good healthy boundaries. So
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying is that all these things are part of all the suppressed stuff, and even the shame and everything. It's all part of self-love that's been kind of twisted and warped. And if we reclaim those emotions and those energies and stuff in their rightful place, without condemning them, but just find that they are, know that there's something beautiful, but that we use them in a way that was negative to us because we didn't know what to do with those energies, then we can turn it around, and then the shame becomes something different. The shame becomes self-appreciation, and the anger becomes um, knowing who you are and knowing what you will and will not accept. So that's what I mean by integration, where you take these things and which are part of, a strong, which we use against ourselves. Um, because anger is really a most beautiful thing, because if we didn't have it, I don't think we could survive. That's,
mhm,
animals have it, we all have it, so that we know when we're in danger. We know
yeah,
when something is wrong is being done to us. That's what anger is for. It doesn't mean we should hurt other people with it. It doesn't. The thing about emotions, which we haven't been taught, a lot of us, is that, in society, is that they're there to tell us what's going on with us. They're not, you don't necessarily have to act on them unless there's something that is conscious that you need to do. But you definitely need to use them to inform and educate yourself as to what's going on and what you need.
going through counseling because I did have lots of counseling sessions, counseling with different people, but I think two of those, and they were both for many years,
Mm-hmm.
and they were both Christian counselors actually,
Oh,
funnily enough. Yeah. Um, going, being able to speak about what I'd been through, being able to acknowledge that, um, the way I felt wasn't necessarily bad in itself, but it was needed for that period of my life. So it could have been the difference between life and death, actually. So
yeah.
it was right for that. But I was carrying, if you want to say, baggage into my adulthood, and I didn't need it anymore. So I didn't need to be flight or flight, every
Yeah.
situation. I need to be either hyper vigilant like I used to be. It used to be that my bed in my bedroom used to have to be facing the door. I had to see the door. So all of those things, they're not healthy. And not only that, when you don't deal with your damaged emotions from your past, what happens is you can develop all manner of illnesses or sick. A lot of that now is being spoken about, but it wasn't back in the day. So I kept on having migraines, skin complaints, all of these things. Go to the doctor, give me cream, nothing was working. Um,
I hear you, because I had similar, just things that, body pains. It came up
yeah,
much later, all this body pain. And the doctor was like, there's nothing wrong with you. We've done all these tests,
yeah,
nothing wrong with you. And then I had to sit with the pain, because I didn't know what else to do, really. And one of my spiritual teachers also said, just sit with the pain and see what happens. And I realized it was all this old,
it was,
pressed
yes,
material that I turned against myself, really. And and the thing is, it, people who have been traumatized in this way or other ways, carry the emotions of the people who traumatized them as well. So it's not just even your own stuff that happened at the time that you suppressed, but it's also, well, in my experience anyway, and that other people that
yeah,
I've spoken to, not spoken to, but kind of know about, that there's this kind of taking on, the stuff, because in a way, that's why the abuser does it, to get rid of the stuff that they're carrying and stuff, so that because they can't really bear it and they want to put it on someone else, so they do it in a violent and aggressive and an unconscionable way, what's the word? Unconscionable
Way. Yes,
a
yes, I
way,
hear you.
a way that's very, very wrong anyway. And
Yeah, and that's why healing is so important. And that was the key for me,
okay.
um, speaking to these counselors. But it was really, it was not really, it was God. As I said, I went into rehab. It was a Christian rehab.
So can you just recap that? So you said that a friend of yours, after you came out of the mental institution, am I right? You
Yeah.
yeah, the
It was a family member just out the blue
yeah.
and said, "Oh, there's a place." It was so bizarre. Anyway, I rang this place and they invited. The place is in Wales. It's called Teen Challenge Hope House for Women, and I went for the interview. And apparently, I was off my head. I have no recollection of this. I was smoking and everything, and
You're still taking cocaine and other stuff.
yeah. So
Okay.
I didn't know. I just went on the train, went there, they picked me up, and apparently they spoke to me and I was saying whatever. They could see clearly this woman is not right. But I had to go back home because it was just an interview and they said, "Oh, we'll contact you in a few weeks. You have to wait for a bed." But anyway, thank the Lord, they got me in very quickly. And the day that I had to leave, my husband had agreed to look after my youngest son.
Your
And
ex-husband.
then, yeah, my ex-husband.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, yes,
No,
ex-husband.
no, just because I
Um,
just want to make sure that you hadn't married someone else and you had
no,
that part of the
no.
okay.
And on the morning that I was to leave, he phoned and said that he's not looking after my son. And I couldn't believe it. And I thought, I'm going to be dead, you know. But then that same relative rang and said, we'll look after him for this because it was a 6 weeks holidays.
Okay.
And then we can sort it out. Now, the program was for 9 months. So I went there, but I went there with the mindset, oh, I'm just gonna go there, because all I thought about was getting off the drugs.
Yeah.
And I went there and the rest is history. You know, they had different phases, the introduction phase, phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four. And you were disciplined. So I used to live an undisciplined life. So you had to get up a certain time, clean your room, have breakfast, um, clean the house, go into class, then in the afternoon, go and do something else, then come back. So it was very disciplined. But they also had counseling sessions where you met with a counselor and talked through your issues. And also you done studies relating to your issue. And then you had prayer times. You started the day with prayer. So it was really, really good. It was hard,
Yeah.
so you've done it, and each each phase is to prepare you to go home,
Okay.
or those who didn't have children, they may wanted to do missions work or do go to Bible school. I had children, so my aim was to go home. It was all prayer, and I could say many women came through that. Yes, you had to go through the vomiting and the diarrhea and all of this stuff. There were people who had particular illnesses that may needed to have tablets. Me, I wasn't allowed tablets, but I did have a problem with sleep. So they gave me a placebo.
Does it work?
Yeah,
It
I thought
shows
I
how
went to my
strong your
bed.
mind is, isn't it?
They gave me one real tablet and one placebo,
Yeah.
but I was the only woman that they ever allowed to keep their light on at night because of the severity of what I'd gone through. But we had all been through awful things, and went through the program, was doing the studies, and I remember it was coming up for time for me to go and visit my children. It was phase three, so I would have been in there for about 7 months or something. And I knew I wasn't ready to go home. I knew.
Mhm.
But the shame, I didn't, again, this word shame, I didn't want to admit because everyone was going home and they were coming back and they were doing really well. I had a bit of a fear. But anyway, I came home and my daughter was meant to meet me. I was meant to be staying with her and she wasn't there. And I contacted my ex-partner, and you could imagine I had a night of madness, drugs and everything. And because I'm honest, when I got
Okay,
back,
so this was so you had a relapse.
yeah,
Okay.
and I came back and I told them, so they said, right, you have to go back to the beginning of the program.
Oh,
What?
oh,
Like, I
not
don't
messing
think
around, do
so.
they?
Yeah, I said, I don't think so. They said, well, you're clearly not
Hardcore.
ready to go home. You're not ready. because I was the ideal person. I never got, they used to have a ticket system when you, it used to call white ticket. If you do something wrong, you've got to wash up the dishes for the week or do all the cooking or cleaning. So nobody wanted a white ticket. So I didn't get a white ticket. So I was considered the right person. So when I done that, I phoned and I said I'd made a mistake and I came back. They said you have to go. I said, I'm not, I'm going home. I'm not staying.
Who admitted it though?
Yeah, but there's a consequence. I stayed
Yeah.
and it was the best decision I'd made. It wasn't that I wasn't adhering to the rules, but this time I really said, God, I really need you to help me. And that anger that you spoke about, it was there. I could feel it. And I had been suppressing it all the time. And I could
Mhm.
feel that rage, that,
Mhm.
why did this happen to me? All of that. So I went into a prayer session with the counselor. She said, right, we're going to do business with God. And so everything that I was feeling, I spoke about, and I just want to share. I call it a vision. As she was speaking to me, I saw a room. I saw a house, sorry, and in the house, I was in a room, and the room was the door was locked. I never forget this vision. The door was locked
Mhm.
and I felt somebody knocking it. And I knew my image of Jesus. I knew he was outside knocking. I said, I'm not opening that door. And I felt him saying, open it. No, I'm not opening it.
One didn't want to open it.
Because I said to him, I'm not opening it because you never saved
Was
me when I was young.
angry.
Yeah. I opened the door and he put his hand out. And as he put his hand out, I held his hand and it was like I had a flashback of my life. And I saw him. I don't know if you're creative, so you should be able to see what I'm in your mind's eye. I saw him all the things I'd gone through. He was there. He was standing there. He was there. I wasn't alone. That what he was showing me is, Brenda, I was with you. I protected you from death. I was with you all the way. I brought you here and I want to set you free. So it's like I had to make that decision. So I took his hand and I saw myself walking, and it was like I was little, then I was a teenager, then I was an adult, then I was a woman until I came to that to the age I was. And when I looked around the room, it was like the sun was shining through and there was a curtain and it was blowing in the wind. It was like I'd reach, I had I was healed, not of everything, but of what I was struggling with at that time. And I can honestly say I felt freed. I went to my room and I had all these toys like a child on my bed. And I felt the Lord say, put them in a bag. I put them in a black dustbin bag. I think the residents thought I was crazy. I put them in a bag and I took them, I threw them in the bin. I said, don't you take any of those.
Letting go of that child.
Yes.
Yeah, that the child.
Yeah, it was like it was all in that bag and
Yes.
I couldn't. So I threw it in and I went to bed, and nighttime was my battle. That was my battle. I
Okay.
went to bed and I had to turn the light off. And I turned the light off and I felt that fear coming and I said, no, I am set free. In the name of Jesus, I'm set free. I'm not that person anymore. And I've been walking in that freedom ever since. I still had to have counseling. I don't have counseling anymore because of what you said about the layers. So
Yeah.
that was just one layer. So
Yeah.
I left there. I went home to my children, a different mother to the one that had left
How
them.
did it change after you had this conversion, revelation, and change? Yeah.
It, I think the difference was that I was free in my mind. Well, the biggest thing, I wasn't addicted to drugs anymore.
Well,
So there
yeah,
was
well,
no
yeah,
drugs.
but I mean, in terms of like tangible,
I was more present with them emotionally. I spoke to them. We sat down and we spoke about all that had gone on.
yeah,
Some of the things they didn't know, so I told them.
yeah,
They shared with me the hurts and pain that they had felt.
yeah.
Um, and I was just a mum in the real sense. So I think the most important thing was that I was present and I was honest. And
Okay.
I started to go to church and I brought them with me so they could understand the journey that I'd been through. And even to this day, they still say, Mum, that was the best decision you made. Because my life had turned around. I didn't hide anything I'd done. I didn't hide where I'd come from. It was there. Obviously, I didn't go into too much detail, but I did explain to them and they had that understanding. And then from there, I had this dream that I had for the longest of time, that I wanted to open a rehabilitation a center for women
and I'm really interested in this rehabilitation because a center, because it sounds like after that you found a concrete, you found your purpose or part,
Yes,
and it's,
yes, that's the word.
yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so maybe in a way you had to, I mean, not that we ever wish
I
that
hear
on
you.
anyone, yeah,
Yeah,
but that you had to go through all that darkness in order to get to this place where now you can help people who have been through, or even people help people to avoid what you've been through, but also people who have been through similar,
yes,
to actually heal. Because I think one of the problems with the world is that a lot of people are so gone through so much trauma and they're unhealed, and then they're just taking it out on other people,
yes,
and there's all these
yes,
traumatized people, and you can't really blame them. And I'm not saying that the people shouldn't be responsible for doing the awful things that happen in this world, and some of the, but if they could be helped, or if they could be healed, I think then, then I think most people don't want to do the people who are doing awful things don't want to do them, but they just don't know how else to be. I think that you're opening this center, maybe you had to go through this. I think there's some people that have to go through some dark stuff, because you're here to help other people kind of like not have to go through it, or heal from it, or do you see what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you mean, and I think that's where I came to the realization that my experiences as and I loved what you said about purpose, because we're all created with a purpose. And
I believe that anyway.
I'm in the process of I'm going to open a rehabilitation center next year, so I'm in the process now of putting down the foundations.
Talk more about
And
that. Yeah, so we
the,
can get the
the,
details down so that if people need to contact you about
yes.
answer any questions, I'll put under the video. I mean, once it's done, I'll
Yes, I'll send you the details, because I want to open a rehabilitation center, and for women of color, it might change, but that's where I'm going at the moment. And I want to, because you've got to take people's culture into consideration. So Teen Challenge was very good for me, but I did struggle from a cultural perspective.
in what way?
Um, sorry?
In what way?
Um, Simple things like I had locks at that time. And so for me, caring for my locks was very important. Now, they did try to help me with that, but they didn't fully understand it. Also, my diet was different. I mean, I wasn't eating anyway, but what I would eat and how it would be cooked and prepared was different. My cultural beliefs as well. So I felt it was a learning curve on both sides.
Yes, yes.
I'm still friends with the workers there. I still go. That's where I'm going there this weekend.
Okay.
So I still go back. I share my testimony, my story.
Yeah.
So I will be opening this rehabilitation center next year. But for the time being, what I'm doing as part of the process is to offer, I'm running community groups for women drop-in centers, so that women with mental health or who've been traumatized, they can come in, they can have that space where they can talk through what they're feeling. They can do a craft. One thing I love is creative expression, writing poetry, doing a collage, something where you can express how you're feeling. For many years, I didn't know how to say what I was feeling, but I'm not a drawer, but I'm good with words. Or you can just use newspapers and do cutout or magazines, some way where they can speak about how they're feeling. And also,
That it's very somatic mostly.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So sometimes it feels really threatening to just have to like talk about them all.
Yes, so if they can do it in a creative way, they're doing it.
Yeah.
And one thing I love is storytelling. You can,
Yeah.
I done an activity with a group of friends not so long, and there was a couple of questions, and they had to choose which one that they wanted to talk about, and then they spoke about it. And then we looked, well, how did you feel speaking about that? And you can use that with hurting people as well. All right, there's a few questions so that they can speak, that not necessarily about what they've gone through, but to build up that confidence and that courage, and that we are hearing you, because a lot of times I didn't feel heard.
Mm.
So with the rehabilitation center, there will be workshops. It was going to be a program. It's going to be similar to what I've done in Teen Challenge, similar,
Yeah.
but there's going to be a mediation service so
Wow.
that women can get their children back. So working with social services so that they can even have access to their children.
Wow.
Lots of different things. So I can send you the details.
Yeah, because even if people want to like I mean, would that be okay if people wanted to contact you and ask about the groups and stuff as well, even
Yes,
before you start
yes, definitely.
to?
Yeah, so I've sent it out to churches and to schools because it's important to work with mothers. They might be going to schools and they're really struggling and suffering in silence. But if we have a drop in, a women's drop in, they can come in and talk. And it's important when you're going through something that you realize you're not on your own. There are other people going through it, so you can talk and not feel judged or anything like that.
Very important to not feel judged because that teaches you to have some compassion for yourself, which was part of the trauma, is that you just that
Yeah.
compassion was not there because well, I mean, in my case, and I think for a lot of people who have been through these kinds of things, I think the self-compassion just because there's so much self-hatred and shame that there's no room for any kind of self-compassion because these things happen at an early age. There's not the self-compassion hasn't had the chance to form, and also, the feeling of, yeah, just the feeling of being bad and wrong and stuff. So this compassionate listening, and what helped me a lot was people that would get angry on my behalf.
Mm.
This wasn't your fault, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I mean, just if I would tell people, and they'd be, and that never occurred to me to feel that for myself,
Yeah, yeah, you don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, that is terrible. Then
Oh, yeah,
get
yeah.
angry about with the abusers on my behalf and stuff. That was very soothing to me. Like, get upset but for me, or angry or cry, or if, whatever. Just that some compassion, and which is normal human stuff. I mean, I have it for other people, but for a long time I didn't have it for myself. And so um that was very soothing and very healing as well. So that's why it's important to share and to have people who can hold the space for you and with compassion and non-judgmentally, regardless of the process, because a lot of traumatized people do just they don't look after themselves, and they do bad things to themselves, because they don't value themselves.
No, and I think something you said just jumped into my mind as well. I think that what I would like people to hold on to as well, you can go through all of that. If you look at my background, I wasn't meant to succeed. And here I am doing which the seemingly impossible. Who would have thought coming from where I'm coming from? I used to think that, who do you think you are? You can do, yes, I can do all things because God lives in me. But more, outside of that as well is that I had a purpose and I am fulfilling
Yeah,
that purpose
yeah,
and we are good enough. I was speaking to a friend recently and I was saying, you're good enough. You are good enough. You will succeed with support. There's an old saying, isn't it? The thing about village, it takes a village to raise a
yeah.
child.
Raise a child, but also to do anything really, you need to do it in community. There's nothing
Yes.
you do that, or you try to do that you can do on your own. There's like
Yeah.
we
Yes.
we can't, because we all have special a special talents and special areas of genius, let's say.
Yes.
Other people kind of like have complementary areas of genius. Everybody's born a genius, and everybody has like their own areas of genius, usually multiple, but definitely
Mm.
specific. And to do something meaningful, or anything at all, really, whether it's meaningful or not, but usually, especially meaningful stuff, you have to come together with people with complementary areas
Yeah.
of genius and create something. And also, this is what humanity is about. It's about community. So that's very important for sure. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to my drive and my drive and my compassion is to help others. Um,
So
because
beautiful.
I know what it feels like to be stuck and to be alone and to feel isolated. We have such a rise of in mental illness and all of this, and
Oh, really?
sometimes
Right
people
now.
just yeah, in life, in society,
Okay.
people just want to share how they're feeling.
Yeah.
I'm doing voluntary work actually for SANE, the mental health organization, and it's a helpline volunteer, and it's
Amazing.
listening, just listening to people. People just sometimes you're just there listening because all they want to do is share what they just want to get out, and that's what it's about, active listening, allowing people, giving people the space to speak
Yeah.
and to share their feelings,
Yes.
and to know that they're heard.
Yeah.
So,
Loving, non-judgmental,
yeah,
like you said, is
yeah,
really important for people, who are suffering, who need, and so often that's enough. Sometimes that's
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Sometimes,
yeah,
yeah, just that
yeah,
someone that 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 cares. They don't have
Yeah.
to know, they don't have to know you, but you know that their heart is in the right place and they want to help
Yeah.
you in whatever way they
Yeah.
can, and I think that's important. And I think it's amazing also that you can go through, like in your case, go through all these extreme hardships and come out the other side with your heart, still functioning and radiating.
Yeah.
And because I can see your energy is so good, and I can see that you're radiating, love and peace, and you look well, so all this stuff. Um, I think just that alone, just even people, if people come across you and they're suffering or have suffered, or are in a situation where they feel compromised in any way, I think that what you radiate also would help them, in the sense of they can see that it doesn't have to be hopeless, because a lot of the
Yeah.
time when they're stuck in
Yeah.
these situations, people are stuck in these situations, feel there's no hope or no
Yeah.
respite or nothing,
Yeah.
that can help them. So I think that, that's another way in which you're just your being, you're expressing your purpose through your being
Yeah.
and what you
Yeah.
and your life. I think your life has been a trajectory of that, even the really horrible and difficult thing,
Yeah.
so, and
Yeah.
for
And I don't regret anything I've gone through, I
me,
don't regret it because I see it as making me who I am today. I know people say those things, but I mean it.
yeah,
I sometimes think, well, would have been Brenda because
yeah.
I only know me, so it's all about that. And I just like to plug, I've written a children's book.
Oh, really? Okay, what's it about? I'll put that down below as well.
It's 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 for little girls aged 6 to 11, and it's just talking about it's just like dealing with so it's using women from the Bible, but then um make making it childlike so a child could say like if you choose I can't think of anyone off the top of my head now, but somebody from the Bible, a woman from the Bible, and then the child could what would you do if you were that in that situation? So if a child was being seen a child being bullied, what would you do? Then it gives an example of what they could do, how they could support that person.
Okay.
um and I'm also going to write a book about my life, actually. I haven't gotten around to doing that, but I would also do that. And
I think that'd be
ultimately,
amazing.
long term dream is to write a book of poetry and prose, and sort of educational pieces on trauma.
Well, you've got
And
quite a lot of poetry and prose, haven't you? Because you've been writing for a while.
yeah, I
Must
have.
keep me posted on that, because I really love to read the stuff
Okay.
you're planning on putting out and stuff. And obviously put the link, and can send me the link just in case anyone wants to, have a look at
Yeah.
children's book and stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know, just feel so proud talking to you. It's
Thank
really
you. It's
amazing.
been a pleasure speaking to you.
No, it's because you just need people like you, more people like you who would, come through their own stuff and their own darkness, and they're just like, and being a beacon of light to other people and helping other people and stuff. Like I said, with by your presence, but also what you're doing. And I was just wondering if you can tell me, I don't think we've got a lot of time left, but if you can tell me a bit about, where the center is going to be, that you're setting up next year, and a bit more about it, kind of functionality. So,
Yeah, so I haven't got a place yet, but it will be on the outskirts of London. I want a green area,
mm.
because nature is good for healing
Oh,
and
yeah,
mental health.
yeah.
Um, and it will be offering services, as I said before, mediation, also helping the women with their mental health or emotional brokenness.
So counseling
Um,
and therapy and stuff like that.
yeah, and getting them prepared to go back into the community, not the way that they left it, but going back into the community, helping them also working together with them for what they want to do next.
Mm.
So if they want to go to college, or if they want to work at getting their children back and building those relationships that's broken down.
Yeah.
It will be a Christian-based environment, so anyone coming in, no one's going to be forced, but the teachings will be that. And also working, I used to do a lot of work in housing, so helping them to be able to work with local authorities to be able to be rehoused if they need to be,
Okay.
or in the private sector.
Okay.
So all of the skill sets that I discover that I've developed over the years, just helping the women with, as you said, the therapy and everything else, but helping them to deal with the root issues of their problem so that they can go back out and start that road, because we're not going to be able to do everything there, but just
And you don't,
giving,
not supposed to really. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just starting them on that road and building, helping them to have the confidence to go out again and not having to do the same things, to start to love themselves, to appreciate themselves, and not to be too hard on themselves, because there were reasons for the decisions that they made, but they're not that person anymore. They're a new person going out into the world, a different person, better equipped to
Yeah.
deal with the issues, and also connecting with local doctors and local GPs and dentists and hospital for the women that will need treatment, ongoing treatment with physical ailments
Okay.
and maybe mental health ailments as well.
Okay. That sounds amazing.
So
It's something that's gonna, I think, also will give people that go through the programs a sense of their own value, which is very important.
yes,
A lot of people
yeah,
haven't gone through these kinds of experiences, don't value themselves at all, and they just
yes,
they and society supports that in a way, because
yeah, it does.
people who
Yeah,
don't, who, unless they're high functioning and it's hidden, but if it's
yeah,
not, the society is like, these people are worthless and they're not worth
yeah,
his time. And so that sense of that this person, because it has value, obviously, and
of
everybody has
course,
more
yeah,
value, so
yeah.
to give them back that, this that truth, or that sense of that. I think that's something that it sounds like that's what's going to happen, and that's what a really important part of it, I think, of it as well.
Yeah,
So, and I think the mediation as well, that you're talking about mediation with social services and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know
'Cause
much about social services because I don't have children, but
yeah, it's
um,
very important, because sometimes, obviously, if you go down the drug route, you might become involved in criminal activity, or you just don't care for your children, not because you don't want to, and they might have to be taken into care. Lots of women I've met, their children being adopted. Um, it's not so bad if they're adopted by grandparents or a family member, but if they adopted out, you might not see them, so it's very difficult, and that adds to the hurt.
yeah,
So where it's possible, then mediation.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. So, I mean, that's so beautiful
Yeah.
what you're doing, and I'm really touched by it, and I'm really touched by your story, and how you've come through, and and how you've just really kind of like sitting with your purpose. And thank you for the love and for sharing so honestly as well. And so, because that's shows a lot of authenticity and
Mm.
bravery as well, because I know how difficult it can be
Yeah.
to show the areas of vulnerability or hardship, or the areas, things that you used to be ashamed of, or didn't think that you were good enough about.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and I think that that I really thank you for doing that within
Thank you.
within our shared space at the moment. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Brenda.
Okay.
Get your swing on, darling, the needle's in the groove. Early records, baby, making hearts and minds move.